Shalom. This video is dedicated to the righteous saints and the most of all righteous, the Messiah, the son of David, and the Messiah, the son of Joseph. The Messiah, the son of David, is the Messiah that fights for the Jewish people and the religion of Israel. The Messiah, the son of Joseph, is the Messiah who is dedicated to the universal faith. Am Yisrael was redeemed from Egypt in 10 plagues by Moses. Moses was dedicated to the universal faith when he brought the family of Israel, children of Israel, to Mount Sinai. There he revealed to them the universal faith. That is, where everything is one, God is one, on earth and in heaven. The universal faith is connected to Adam before he sinned. But the Jewish people could not be able to accept the universal faith which Moses wanted to put into the world, especially the women of the nation of Israel. They wanted to have families. They wanted a way of life to raise their children. And God had already promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob that he would make them a people and that he would give them the land of Israel. So the nation of Israel at that point was split into two factions. One was called the generation of the wilderness, that their desire was for the universal faith, the knowledge of God on the higher level of unity of the Shema Yisrael, connecting to God through Adam before the sin, and to Moses, their shepherd. The other side of Israel were the Jews who wanted to build a nation. The women of Israel, they wanted to live in sanctity in the land of Israel with their families, to build a family and a nation in the land of Israel. The two sides of the people of Israel were split, and the decree was that only those Jews who were 20 years old at the time of the giving of the Torah would be allowed to go into Israel. The older generation, which had seen the light of God in the essence of Shema Yisrael, the higher unity, and the universal faith, they were not allowed to go into Israel. Not even Moses, not even Aaron and not Miriam, Moses' sister, not Bezalel, not Kor. No, only the younger generation would be allowed to go into Israel. And the younger generation had to wait 40 years till the older generation had already passed away before they could be able to enter Israel. Moses appointed Joshua and Caleb. They were the only two Jews who had been over 20, had received the truth of the universal faith at Mount Sinai. They were the only ones that were allowed of the old generation to enter Israel. The level of spirituality of the universal faith, which is Shema Yisrael, is the level of the number 50. The Jewish people say every day 2 times this pasuk, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Each passage has in it 25 letters. 2 times 25 is 50, representing the universal faith. The universal faith is the revelation of the divine freedom. 50 times is mentioned in the Torah about the Jews being going out of Egypt. Also, that level of 50. Now, Moses appointed Yehoshua to lead the Jewish people into Israel. Yehoshua's name is Yehoshua ben Nun. Yehoshua is the son of Nun. Nun is the letter with the numerical value of 50. What is the meaning of that? Is that Moses is the level of 50, which is compared to the son, and Yehoshua ben Nun, he is the son of Moses, the son of the level of 50, which is ben Nun, which is compared to the moon. So Moses is compared to the sun, and Yehoshua is compared to the moon. As you know, the moon has no light of its own. It only receives the light that it receives from the sun. And Moses is the supernal light of God. His light, or his level of righteousness, is on the level of 50. And Yehoshua is compared to the moon, receiving from that level of 50. But he is not on the level of 50. Moses is on the level of 50. So the children in the wilderness, they were connected to Moses. They lived on a high spiritual level of the number 50, spiritual healing and revelation, freedom, spiritual freedom. They ate from the bread that fell from heaven called manna. They drank from a well, a mystical well that followed with them in the wilderness, and there was a cloud above them. The manna was in the merit of Moses. The well was in the merit of Miriam, and the cloud in the merit of Aaron. But the 50th gate was left in the wilderness. It was not revealed again in Israel. What was revealed in Israel was the level of Ben Nun, the level of spirituality connected to the moon, which is also connected to religion and connected to Judaism. So Moses is the level of 50, and Joshua is the level of kingship, which is the level of 48. When we say the pasuk Shema Yisrael, this is every day, 2 times a day. Afterwards we say Baruch Shem Kavod, blessed be his kingship. The kingship, that pasuk of Baruch Shem Kavod has 24 letters, and it's said twice a day. That's the number 48. So the level of the kingship is the number 48. The level of supernal light and faith, knowledge of God is 50. In between is the level of 49, which is a connection between both the number 50 and 48. But the number 49 is connected to righteousness and to the kingship. Now the Zohar, here is the Zohar, the daily portion we read every day. There's a pasuk about tzaddikim and rishoyim. It says, the Or tzaddikim ke'or noger holek va'or ad nochon hayom. The level of the righteous is a level of light called noga, which lasts all day, means eternally. It is the level of truth. But the level of the wicked is not called orach, it's called derech. There is the difference between the way of the righteous and the way of the wicked. The way of the wicked, their way is called derech or way. The way of the righteous is called orech. Now, of the generation of the Dor Midbar in the wilderness, there was mixed together the tzaddikim. Many were tzaddikim, but many of them were called Erev Rav. They were not tzaddikim. So there is, in the level 50, is intermingled in the if the nation is on the level of 50, will be intermingled within the nation. Also, derech rishoyim, the way of the wicked. So, but the level of 48 is the level of Am Kadosh, the holy nation of Israel, where everyone is righteous. Orat tzaddikim. Like it says, Orat tzaddikim, ka'or noga holei pa'or anochon hayom. This is the level, Orat tzaddikim is the level of the Jewish saints that entered into Israel, and they studied Torah day and night. They didn't have time to sleep even. They ate only what was sufficient for them to live on. And it says the way of the Torah is pas v'melech, eating bread with salt, and also not looking for luxuries. And these were the righteous saints of Israel, and continues today. These are the Talmidei Chachamim in Israel. They are the scholars of Israel, studying Torah day and night, and principally studying the law. Because the law of Israel separates the Jewish people from the other nations of the world and the other religions of the world. The law of Israel is called the kingship of Israel. And it says God and the Torah and Israel are one. This is the level of the kingship. And the Jewish people today have survived through the diaspora only because of these righteous saints devoted to the Torah and connecting to God through the Torah. Their connection to God is through the Torah that Moses gave the Jewish people. Moses, who was on the higher level of 50, brought down this light from Mount Sinai, the level of 50, and he gave it to the Jewish people in the way of two tablets that he first tablet he broke because he saw that the universal faith was not what was the Jewish people needed to make a nation in Israel, to fulfill the prophecies of the forefathers God guaranteed to them. Also, he gave them a second set of tablets. This is the Jewish law, which is on the level of 48, which is the foundation of the Jewish religion, which is in the 5 books of Moses and in the oral Torah. Oral Torah are the instructions of which came from Moses and was followed up by Joshua, and each generation is handed down from generation to generation to Torah scholars who comment on the law, and they teach the law to the people. This is the way of Judaism, study of the law. The study of the secrets of the Torah has a secondary importance. It was of primary importance to the generation of the wilderness. Those that were connected to Moses were on the level of 50, but in the Judaism, it became the secondary importance. Jews are instructed in the 5 books. The secrets are for God, and the heart of the law is for all Jews. And you're starting Jewish education with study of the law. Children start at 5 years old, and everyone knows that the law of God is the Jewish Torah is the law of God, and that they have to continue to follow this law. They follow the law. Their children will be saved from evil, promiscuity, which we see today in the world. And those that follow the law, they learn in separate Jewish schools, and they're able to, their children know what God wants. They know that what is good and what is evil. Moses brought the Jewish people to the Jordan, and he said, I show you the difference between good and evil. What's good is a blessing, and evil is a curse. And we have to do good and choose life. Life is to follow the laws and commandments of the Torah. Orach Tzadikim. This is the way of Tzadikim. And then there is Derek Rishorim, the way of the wicked. It says the way of the wicked will perish. They don't have an eternal life in the next world. Now, there's also the term derek or way is also used for tzaddikim. Derek tzaddikim. It's used for Rishoyim, derek Rishoyim. But the word orech is only for the righteous. The level of the 50th gate has come down into Judaism through this holy saint, which is Rabbi Yisrael Ber. He sought out truth. He wasn't satisfied with normal Hasidic life. And he was introduced to Breslov Hasidism. Rabbi Nachman of Breslov was a grandson of the Baal Shem Tov, the founder of Hasidism. And he saw in Breslov Hasidism a level of truth and peace which was hidden from the Jewish people even from the days of Moses. And Yisrael Ber became famous in Israel when was revealed that he had received a letter from Rabbi Nachman. On the bottom here it says, Nana Nachman Ma'umen, that had been written by Rabbi Nachman 200 years after he had passed away, which was the first revelation of resurrection in amongst Jewish people since Mount Sinai. That Moses is connected to resurrection. He is connected to the 50th gate, which is resurrection. And Moses, we know his grave is unknown, but Rabbi Nachman's grave is found in the city of Uman in the Ukraine. And after he wrote this letter, there many people say that he's no longer in Uman, but he's in Jerusalem. I want to read to you something that he wrote about Rabbi Nachman to the President of Israel. And he wrote this letter to the President of Israel on the Independence Day of Israel, Hey ER, in the year Tavshin Yudchet. He lived in Tiberia at that time. He wrote many letters to the President of Israel, Zalman Shamir. He is the only of the tzaddikim, even amongst Breslov, that didn't look at the modern state of Israel with an evil eye. And because of that, he was able to write this letter to the President of Israel, because he saw that the light of Rabbi Nachman of the 50th gate is the light of Moses the prophet. The light of the 50th gate is high enough to be able to unite all the Jewish people together in a nation, in a democratic nation of Israel. Because the 50th gate is the gate of freedom. And freedom is what is being revealed today in the modern world. And the nation of Israel is one of the representatives of freedom in the modern world. So he writes, "Behold, I send to you my blessings on the Independence Day, the 10th Independence Day. Baruch Shechianu." It should continue, and we are thankful to God that we've reached this point in the history of Israel. Already 10 years, now it's already 72 years. That God did nisim, miracles, to make a modern state of Israel, which today dwells 6,000 Jews. And we should merit to the redemption soon in our days, for all the Jewish people will receive Rabbi Nachman of Breslov as he has resurrected, and is called Nana Nachman Ma'umen. And this will be the redemption of the nation of Israel. And he writes, through the holiness of the land of Israel,